Las Vegas is known as Sin City. For most of you, you love coming here to party, indulge, and have an amazing time. But if you're thinking about moving here, you need to know everything about the city. And you want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. This video, I'm going to be sharing with you those three things to help you decide whether or not Vegas is the right place for you. If this is the first time that you're checking out my channel, my name is Seanu Uyehara. I'm a branch manager with Loan Depot, helping you finance your homes all across America. Whether you're buying your first property, buying a vacation home, refinancing, or building your real estate portfolio, we've got you covered from coast to coast. So make sure you hit the description below. If you have questions, drop me a line. I'd be happy to answer them for you. And if you find these videos helpful, show me some love and share this with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel as I drop videos every single week to help you get your mortgage right. Now, like I mentioned, we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly here in Vegas. I've lived here 16 years. I'm going to give you my perspective on a few of these things. And I know a lot of you are thinking about making the move. So hopefully this helps you decide, and maybe you will want to call Vegas your new home. So let's start off with the good. I've got 7 things that I want to share with you guys, and we'll start with number 7, and in no particular order, but number 7 is food and entertainment. This is an obvious one. Vegas is known for the entertainment. They're known for amazing restaurants, 5-star all along the strip. Now, one of the cool things that I've seen over the years living here in Vegas is that there are more foodie type restaurants that are coming to Vegas that are off the strip. Everybody knows about what's on the strip, whether you're eating at a Michael Mina restaurant, you're eating at the Wynn, at SW, or MGM, or any of these amazing restaurants that we have here in town. Cool thing is, and what you need to find out, is the local spots and all the off-strip properties that are available, because that's where some of the best food and entertainment is. So you can definitely look into that. If you have friends that are living here, ask them where they like to eat. There's a lot of places. If you love Asian food, which I absolutely love Asian food, Spring Mountain Road is probably one of the best places that you can definitely visit. And you can literally drive west from the strip, just going down Spring Mountain Road, and you will find restaurant after restaurant, different cuisines, different ethnicities. It's amazing. And there's literally plazas that you will find that will have tons of restaurants that you literally probably wouldn't be able to get to all of them in one weekend, let alone living here for 16 years, but tons of food. In fact, we've actually visited a few restaurants, so make sure to check out my playlist where you can see some of these up close and personal. Number 6, all of the outdoor activities that we have here in Las Vegas. Now, again, everyone thinks of Las Vegas of just the strip, but there's so much more other than the food, like I just mentioned, off the strip. A lot of people like to come visit Vegas because we are fairly close to other national parks and other outdoor activities. Now, I've got a list from TripAdvisor. Here are some of the most commonly visited outdoor attractions. So we have the Grand Canyon, for example. You have the Colorado River, Emerald Cove. You have the Hoover Dam, which I've actually been there once with my daughter. You can actually buy what's called a dam dog. So they sell hot dogs there. That's kind of cool. Give you a little souvenir to visit. There's also ATVs that you can ride in the Mojave Desert. Red Rock, which is probably 20-25 minutes away from the strip. And there's also a casino right out there as well, which is also called Red Rock Casino. You can hike, you can mountain climb, you can bike, and you can even ride horses out there as well. Bryce Canyon, Zion National Park, and the Valley of Fire. There's so many things to do. If you come to Vegas and you're not partying and you're not hungover, you should definitely check out a lot of these outdoor activities because there's tons to do, not only for yourself, but even with your family. And number 6, I'm going to compare this one to California because, as most of you know, my daughter lives out there and I visit quite frequently. And to be honest, the bulk of you that are relocating here to Vegas are coming from California. So the traffic compared to California is night and day. And I would much rather drive here in Vegas because I can usually get to any destination that I'm trying to get to within a 20-minute drive. Anything longer than that, as you know, I've talked about before, I'm a little spoiled. I feel it's a little long, but you could literally go from Henderson to Summerlin in probably 30 minutes, not even with a bunch of traffic. So if you really want to get around the whole city, it doesn't take that long. Comparative to California, you're probably driving 30 minutes to an hour just to get anywhere. That to me gets old and boring, and I could never do that. So to all of you Californians watching this, props to you guys, but I don't know how you do it. The traffic here in Vegas is a lot better comparative to California. So I do like that, and to me that's a good thing. However, the more that we have people relocating here to Vegas, the city is getting busier and busier. So at some point, yes, traffic will get bad, traffic's going to get worse, but for the time being it is better, and I do appreciate my short 20-minute drives. And at number 4, the weather. Now I know some of you might be saying, Sean, you're crazy, it's hot in Vegas, but I'm going to get there at some point throughout this video, so make sure you stay to the end. But in my opinion, weather here is still good, and here's why. When you look at the weather for the entire year, Vegas is actually a very moderate city. Now, according to WeatherSpark, I looked at their website, and for example, the average temperature in December was only 47 degrees. Now, yes, that's a little cold. However, when you look at other parts of the country, especially for a lot of you that are relocating from the Midwest, the East Coast, and even parts of the Northwest, you guys have to deal with snow. You have to deal with even colder temperatures. I know when I went to college in Spokane, I remember one of the first years I was there, the temperature got into the single digits, and you never see the sun ever. And I hated it. It was something that was really hard to get adjusted to, but here in Vegas, I'll take 47 degrees with no snow ever. That's a no-brainer, and all you need is literally a light jacket and you're totally good to go. So in that sense, I can appreciate that, and I love that part of the weather here in Vegas. Now, of course, it does get hot during the summertime, but I will add that to the bad part of the list. So let's keep carrying on with the good parts of Vegas. And number 3, we have 24-hour access. This is something that when you first move here, it might be a little difficult to get adjusted to, because sometimes your neighbors might be working graveyard shifts. I've heard of friends and clients that have moved next to people that they would get off of work early in the morning while you're going to work. So sometimes you really don't even see your neighbors. Sometimes you have to be conscious of your noise levels, especially if you have a neighbor that maybe they're up at night while you're trying to go to bed. So there's little nuances like that could become an issue, but 24-hour access to literally everything. If you want to go grocery shopping at midnight, at 2 a.m. you can do that. If you want to get some food, there's always a bar, there's always a restaurant, there's always something open. I know it's really tough whenever I travel. Some of these places, restaurants are closing at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and sometimes you still want to get some dessert, or you're running late, maybe you watch a movie or something, and you want to have access to these things. And I think once you move here to Vegas, you start to appreciate them, and like anything else, you get a little spoiled. So I appreciate the fact that if I need to get something at any hour of the day or really early in the morning, something's going to be open and I can probably find it. And number 2, no state income tax. This is a huge benefit to so many of you, and like I mentioned, many of the people that are relocating here to Vegas are coming from California. You don't have to pay your state tax. This is one big huge advantage to why so many of you are coming to Vegas, and this is also why I think in the long run why our real estate market here will stay hot. Now, there may be other parts of the country that things may cool off a little faster, but I think that with the way inflation has been going and the way that everything is just becoming more and more expensive, whether it's your household expenses, obviously anything right now has gone up in price. Whenever I go to California, I'm looking at paying $6-7 a gallon for gas, and look, there's no stopping in sight. So here in Vegas, no state income tax. It's a huge break, especially for those of you that are higher income earners. It's a ton of money that you're going to be able to save simply by having a residence and calling Vegas your new home. And number 1, the convenience of our airport. McCarran Airport is the 8th busiest airport in the US. There are a few airlines that have a hub out of Las Vegas, and they are Allegiant Airlines, Frontier Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and Spirit. So if you like to fly any of those airlines, you should be able to get on a flight very easily. We usually fly on Southwest quite often, especially for work, because if you have to get in and out of a city, Southwest flies almost every single hour, and I can get to our Phoenix office in the same day. I can go to LA. There's so many direct flights just out of Las Vegas, even international flights as well. And for all of you Hawaiians that are watching, of course you know about Hawaiian Airlines, and of course Southwest just announced that they're flying to Hawaii as well. But I love flying on Hawaiian. It's always super comfortable, an easy flight, and direct back to home. So it makes it easy if you get homesick. For all of my fellow Hawaiians out there, if you need to head back to the homelands. Despite McCarran being the 8th busiest airport, getting in and out of the airport is fairly easy. From my house alone, I can leave probably in about 40 minutes to my flight, valet my car, and get to my gate. Of course, I have TSA pre-check and clear, so it makes the convenience of not necessarily having to be at the airport so early or deal with traffic in order to catch a flight. So for all of you that do have to travel for work, I feel the convenience of the airport just makes it really, really easy to get in and out. There's valet parking. You don't have to worry about looking for parking if you don't want to, and the ease of getting through security and TSA. It's not long and just crazy like it is in LAX or even some of the bigger airports like out in Atlanta or even Florida or even New York. So it makes it really, really easy to get on your flight with less stress. Now we're going to hop into the bad list. So before we hop into the bad list, I want you to comment below if you are thinking about moving to Vegas. And if you are thinking about moving, why don't you drop in the comments, moving to Vegas? Drop that below so we can see who's thinking about making the move out here. Because if you folks have any questions, don't forget, you can always drop me an email. I'd be happy to get you whatever info you're looking for, or at least point you in the right direction, because I know making that move, you're gonna have a lot of questions and it can be very stressful, but that's why I create these videos to help you with your move. Number 6, and again, in no particular order, we're going to start with the weather, since I just touched on the weather being good. So now we're going to state the obvious. When it gets into the summertime, it gets hot in Vegas. So even though in the winter times it might be great, because those of you that hate dealing with the snow and hate dealing with all of that madness that comes around during the winter time, you'll love it here in town. But if you're not used to the heat, this will be an adjustment. Now, according to Weather Spark, June through August is usually when it's the hottest here in town. Course, during the summertime. Now, just to give you a rough idea as to the average temperatures that they recorded. So in June, the average temperature was 100 degrees. In July, it was 104. August, 102. Now, there are days during those summer months where you will see 110 plus degrees, 115 plus degrees here in Vegas. I like to look at it when I moved from Hawaii to Washington, where the first time that I seen the temperature in the single digits, that was a shocker to me. But could you really tell the difference between, let's say, 8 degrees or 15? I couldn't. I just knew it was cold. And I feel it's the same way with the heat. I mean, if it's 105 or 115, it really doesn't matter. It's hot. Hot is just hot. And especially here in Vegas, it's dry heat. So to get a good idea what that feels like, you could literally take a blow dryer, blow that on your face, and that's what you feel like when you walk outside. It's not that intense of wind blowing in your face, but it's hot. However, I do like the fact that it's dry heat. I can deal with dry heat, but for all of you in the South where the humidity is something maybe you prefer, dry heat's definitely going to be a big change for you. Definitely going to Texas or Florida, you know, when you have to deal with the humidity, that's a whole nother different animal. Even when I go back to Hawaii now, I can feel the humidity even worse. And I hate that, because whenever you get out of the shower, you feel like you have to take another shower. At least here in Vegas, when it's hot, you're not necessarily just pouring sweat. So I don't mind dealing with that. And so that's why I don't think the heat's that bad. I think for a lot of you, it's just you have to just get accustomed to the fact of seeing those triple digits in your car. But for the most part, a lot of us that have been here for a number of years, you just kind of get used to it, and it's not a big deal. If anything, you can always travel to another part of the country where maybe it's a little cooler, or you can enjoy the beach and enjoy that weather instead. And number 5, we have desert landscaping. This is something that you definitely have to get used to here in Vegas, because there's a lot of rocks everywhere. You're not going to see a lot of greenery. So if you're from the Northwest or anywhere where trees are prevalent, coming here is going to be a huge change. And I know when I've traveled back to Washington recently, you just see how green and lush everything looks, and it looks amazing. Now I can appreciate it, but when I first moved to Vegas, I didn't really pay attention to that kind of stuff. But now when you really look at the landscaping for most part, and especially with the water issues that we've had here in town, everything is moving towards water conservation. So if you have grass, you have to eliminate it, or you can water only on certain days, or you have to get artificial grass so you have some sort of greenery. But for the most part, many homes here in Vegas have rocks, and that's it. And it gets really difficult to use to, because everything is just so brown, and it's not really appealing. So if you really, really like greenery and you need that, this may not be the place for you, but that's why it's ending up on the bad list. Number 4, the lack of public transportation. Vegas is not a great place if you don't have a car. In fact, if you don't have a car, I would recommend you definitely need to look into it, because getting around on a bus or anything is just not probably the best, the way the city is built. Obviously, there's still some infrastructure that they need to put in, but it's definitely not a strong suit of what we possess here in Las Vegas. For the most part, like I mentioned, if you don't have a car, you would have to look into it. And for all of you that live in cities like New York, where you take subways to get around, we don't have any of that here in Vegas. You could obviously Uber and use a Lyft if you needed to get around, if you absolutely didn't want to buy one. Or maybe you work on the strip, so then you'd have to try to find maybe a place that you can live in a high rise that's closer to your work, so you don't necessarily need one. But for the most part, every single person that I know that lives here in Vegas has a vehicle in order to get around the city. So that's definitely something that you need to budget for if you are relocating here. Let's say you don't have a car, because you definitely need to factor in your car payment if you're going to finance it. And then you also have to factor your car insurance, which leads me to my next point. This is another bad thing about the city, is that our car insurance rates are one of the worst in the entire country. According to Value Penguin, the car insurance premiums here in Las Vegas is about 45% higher than the national average. So if you don't have a vehicle, make sure to factor that in. In fact, the average insurance premium on a vehicle is about $1,100 according to Value Penguin. So again, break that down. That's going to cost you probably close to another $100 a month as far as your car insurance goes. On my car, I have a 2021 Range Rover. I pay about $150 a month in car insurance. So make sure you shop around or check with your carrier if you have multiple lines, so that way you can budget that in and you don't get shocked as to how much you're going to pay in car insurance. Now, on a side note, I will also say that registering your car here is also a bad thing. It's very, very pricey when you do register your vehicle. My girlfriend bought a brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee, and I want to say her car registration was about $1,000. So just keep in mind, again, this whole vehicle thing is on the bad list because we're at the top. We're one of the worst in the country when it comes to this stuff. But the trade-off is there's no state income tax. So obviously the state has to generate tax revenue somewhere. So we get hit over the head when it comes to your vehicles. I won't even share what I had to pay when I registered my car, but let's just say it was expensive. So make sure, if you like nice cars, maybe you can find other tax alternative ways to not pay so much here in Las Vegas, which there's ways to do that. If not, just budget that in, and it's going to be part of your move and your annual expenses. You just got to budget for it. Number two, we have higher utilities here in Las Vegas as well. In the summertime, your electric bill is going to jump through the roof. So just make sure, if you are buying a home or renting a home, that it's insulated well. You have some blackout shades or something to help you mitigate some of that AC being ran the entire day. But for the most part, that's what most people do. You just have to budget for it. It runs all day. And in the wintertime, your gas bill goes up because you're using your heat. But for those of you that are more accustomed to the cold weather, maybe you don't need to run your heat as much. I did break down a few examples. So I have a property that's about 1,500 square feet. It's a single story, and I'm gonna give you just a rough idea as to what some of the bills were that I had on that house. So for my energy bill, in April, it was $94. So not too bad. Internet through Cox Cable is about $104 a month. And for example, my gas bill was only $24. So April, fairly cheap month, not too bad. But let's look at the summer months. So I went back to July of last year, and my energy bill was $294. Again, $94, $294. So in the summertime, look at it almost a 3-4x amount. And again, that's a single story house. So if you have a 2-story, you might have 2 AC units running. Obviously, that number could be a lot higher. And again, the gas bill, I went back to January and I looked at the amount of uses that I had, and my gas bill during that time was $93. So compare that to the 24 in April. Again, you're looking at about a 4x increase. So again, you just have to budget that in when you have those winter months and the summer months. You might see a 3-4x swing in your payments, but that's where You just need to look for ways that you could potentially save money if you're going to be conscious of your utility bills. And number one on the list, we have gambling. It's everywhere. You walk into a gas station, there's slot machines. They have these little pop-up lounges all over town called Dotties, where you could literally go in there and gamble 24/7. There's casinos all over the city. Whether you're not on the strip, there's casinos within the neighborhoods across town, over in Henderson and in Summerlin, and they're everywhere. So if you have the temptation to gamble, this may not be the best place for you. I've seen people lose their houses because they've lost that money to gambling. You make a lot of bad decisions. Now with the convenience of online gambling, it makes it that much more difficult here in Vegas. So if you have any sort of interest with gambling, and it may be your vice and it's something that you just really can't control, this may not be the city, but you just have to be aware. It is everywhere. You're not going to be able to hide from it. Even if you tried to hide your kids from it, it's really hard. Like I said, it's literally everywhere. Grocery stores, gas stations, you name it. Slot machines are everywhere. And now we're going to hop into the ugly list about Las Vegas. I've only got 4, so let's hop right in. And at number 4, we're going to start with crime. Yes, the crime here in Vegas is pretty bad. According to Neighborhood Scout, I'm going to read this little excerpt that they had on their website that I found. It said, based on FBI crime data, Las Vegas is not one of the safest communities. Las Vegas has a crime rate that is higher than 86% of the states, cities, and towns of all sizes. That's not great to hear when you live here. Like any other part of the country, you're always going to have your good parts of the city, your bad parts of the city. On areavibes.com, their website, they said that Las Vegas is up 17% higher than the national average as far as total crime goes. We are 36% higher than the national average for violent crime, and we are 13% higher with property crime. So Vegas, not the safest city like they mentioned. However, there are good parts of the city, there are bad parts of the city. So you just have to be really cognizant of that if you are thinking of relocating here. Now, you can go to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department website. There's a lot of data and statistics there that you can definitely check out, which I would recommend, just so that way you decide for yourself what might be the best for you. We've done some videos of some other neighborhoods here in town, so you can definitely check out our playlist as well if you want to look at some of the communities, or if you need some help, we can always connect you with one of our top real estate agents that can get you more information about a specific part of the area. But just know that crime is prevalent here. I fortunately have not witnessed anything that was crazy, or I don't know anyone personally. I'm gonna knock on wood with that. So luckily in that sense, things are okay, but you know, crime is out there. Obviously, if you watch the news, you can find lots of crime on there as well. So just be careful, if especially if you have a family and you need to be careful for your children as well. Number 4, we have a reputation of being a party city. There's still people that are out there that think that all Las Vegas is the strip. Now, we have a lot more to the city than just the strip. So I think just as a reputation of itself, people still think of Vegas as Sin City. People think of Vegas as coming here to party, getting drunk, doing drugs, and just whatever else you do when you get drunk and do drugs. Here in Vegas, if you have the money, you can literally do almost anything that you want here in town. And I still think to this day, there's a lot of people that are relocating here that's their depiction of what they're moving into. There is life off the strip. Lots of people have normal lives that don't even engage in any of that stuff. So if you haven't been to Vegas before, I would definitely recommend visiting the town so that way you can see it for yourself and you're not just taking someone else's word who came here for a weekend, got drunk, and maybe got thrown in jail. So you don't want to make that decision because there's lots of great things about the city, but the ugly part is that we still have a bad rep simply because of those things. And number 2, our unemployment rate. That's something we're definitely not proud of. So I went to the Nevada Department of Training and Rehabilitation website and I pulled some data, and in April of 2022, our unemployment rate that was seasonally adjusted was 5%. The national average is 3.6. So we are higher than the national average. In fact, Nevada was among 3 other states in March of 2022 that had unemployment rates of 5% and above. The other states were New Mexico, the District of Columbia. So when you look at that, we are on the higher end of the spectrum when it comes to unemployment rate. So if you don't have a job here and you're moving here hoping you're going to find something, I would definitely start looking sooner than later, because don't come here without a plan, without having anything in hand, because that would be detrimental to yourself and you don't want to do that. So make sure you do your due diligence. And number one on the ugly list, this one really pertains to all of you that have families and children, because at number one is our education system. We just flat out suck. Nevada is one of the worst states in the entire country when it comes to the education system. In fact, on the local 8 News Now website, Nevada was second worst in education behind, I'll let you guys guess. Who do you think was the worst? Actually, comment below and you tell me what it is. So we're gonna pause this video for a second. I want you guys to tell me what you think the worst state was. Okay, back to the video. The worst state was Oklahoma. Now, here's some other things to take into account. Nevada was 49th in educational attainment, 42nd in school quality, 46th in the best school system in the USA, and we were last in doctorate degrees in the nation. Unfortunately, education here in Las Vegas, it's not at the top of the list, and that sucks, especially if you have kids, because you want your kids to obviously get a great education. We all would love that. So you may have to look at maybe private schools in order for that to happen, or with the way that things have been going lately, you may even want to homeschool your children. But there are still some good public schools in Vegas. Just make sure to do your due diligence, check those websites out, ask for references, but just know that the overall system itself is not great. So as a parent, you may have to put in some extra work helping your kids, or maybe finding some after school programs like Kumon. I know they're really big on math. When I went to that when I was a kid way back in the day in Hawaii. So look for some of these after school programs to maybe help facilitate and supplement what the children are learning in school, because I just don't think that relying on just a normal public school education is going to be good enough to get your kids to college. So that wraps up the video. The good, the bad, the ugly of Las Vegas. If I missed anything, I want you guys to comment below whether it is good, bad, or ugly, especially if you do live here. Let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you guys, from what you guys think about the city. I still love Vegas. Vegas is home for me, and I love everything that the city has to offer. So many opportunities and entertainment. I just can't see myself living anywhere else. I appreciate you guys watching and sharing this video with your friends and family. Again, I'll see you on the next video. Appreciate you.